You ever wonder why some people just seem to get ahead? You know, they climb the ladder faster, they earn more, and they build wealth in a way that can be, well, a little baffling? It's one of those big life mysteries, right?
Okay, so let's really dig into this. Picture two people. They've got the same IQ, went to the same college, maybe even got the exact same degree. But fast forward a few years, and their careers and their bank accounts look totally different. How does that happen? For a long time, researchers have been trying to crack this code to find some kind of success DNA. Well, today, we're going to unpack the science and see which personality traits actually pave the road to success.
All right, first up, we've got a trait that is all about taking charge. See, if you want to get ahead, it turns out you need more than just raw talent or skills. You need what scientists call a proactive personality.
So what on earth does that actually mean? Well, having a proactive personality isn't just about being busy. It's this deep, built-in tendency to look at a situation and actually take steps to change it for the better, instead of just sitting back and reacting to whatever comes your way.
And look, this is not just some nice-sounding theory. A massive study, we're talking over 100,000 employees, found a direct, really powerful link between being proactive and earning more money and getting more promotions. The sheer scale of this research gives us a crystal clear signal.
So how does being proactive work its magic? Well, the secret sauce, as researchers call it, is something called Organizational Citizenship Behavior, or OCB for short. It's just a fancy term for going above and beyond your job description. You know, helping out a coworker who's totally swamped, volunteering for that new project, basically being a giver at work.
And this breaks it down perfectly. A proactive person takes action. That action often looks like helping other people. When you do that, you build this incredible amount of social capital and trust with your team and your boss. And that trust, that is what leads to more responsibility and, you guessed it, those promotions. It's a straight line.
Okay, let's keep building on this. If proactivity is the spark, then our next trait is the engine that really drives you forward. When we look at the big 5 personality traits, one of them stands out as the undisputed heavyweight champion of success, and that is conscientiousness.
Now, this trait covers things like being disciplined, being organized, having ambition. And its power kicks in really early. For teenagers, for instance, you combined conscientiousness with intelligence and bam! That explains a whopping 40% of the difference in their school grades. That is a huge predictor of success right from the start.
Now, as people move into their careers, conscientiousness often shows up as a related trait, grit. You've probably heard this term before. It's all about having perseverance and passion for your long-term goals. It's that ability to just keep pushing, to keep up the effort even when you hit a major setback. The people with grit are the ones who pull off those massive, life-changing goals.
Okay, so we've talked about being proactive and being disciplined. But what about just being, well, nice? We're always told that being agreeable is the way to get ahead. But the data shows something fascinating and honestly a little uncomfortable. It's a real paradox.
And this is where we get a real surprise. That old wisdom that says, be nice and you'll get ahead, it's not the full story. In fact, research has found that higher levels of agreeableness can actually predict a decrease in income. Yeah, you heard that right. This is where that saying, nice guys finish last, seems to have some real science behind it.
So why does this happen? Well, this quote from the research literature pretty much sums it up. While being kind and trusting is awesome for team morale, being too accommodating can really hurt you. Highly agreeable people often have a tough time with things like negotiating their salary, or they sacrifice their own success to please everyone else, which can lead to extreme losses in their career over the long run.
Now, we've got to go to a darker, more provocative part of this whole story. If being too nice can hold you back, what about the exact opposite? Is it possible that negative traits can actually help you get ahead? The research into what's called the dark triad is pretty shocking.
So, the dark triad is made up of 3 distinct but related personality traits. You've got narcissism, that's all about ego and entitlement. Then there's Machiavellianism, a tendency to manipulate and be cynical. And finally, psychopathy, which is defined by a lack of empathy and a whole lot of impulsivity.
And here is the insane paradox. In the short term, these traits can be incredibly effective. People with these traits are masters of self-promotion. Their over-the-top confidence is often mistaken for actual competence, and they can climb into leadership roles with terrifying speed. But the long-term impact? It's almost always toxic. We're talking abusive bosses, people quitting left and right, and even financial fraud.
Okay, after hearing all that, you might be thinking, great, my personality basically seals my fate.
But that is not the whole story, not even close. The most powerful part of all this research is about what we can actually change, because your traits are not your destiny. And hey, it's not just about the big traits we focused on. The other big 5 play a role too. For instance, having low neuroticism, which just means you're more emotionally stable, is strongly tied to being happier in your job. And openness to experience, that's a huge predictor of creativity, which makes it an unbelievable asset in fields like the arts or in academia. And this right here, this is the most important takeaway of this entire explainer. While some things, like your raw intelligence, are pretty hard to change, the key non-cognitive skills we've been talking about, traits like being proactive and conscientious, are malleable. You can develop them. This means you can actively train yourself to get better. You can build systems to become more organized. You can make a conscious choice every day to be more helpful to your teammates, building up that all-important OCB. You can practice taking the first step on small tasks. These aren't fixed points. They're muscles you can actually strengthen. So as we wrap this up, it really leaves us with one final important question for you to think about. Looking at this whole personality playbook, which of these traits do you think is your greatest asset right now? And maybe more importantly, which one could you strengthen to build the future you really want?